This video will be concerned with performance measurement. Now, we're going to develop input measures for each goal. We're going to identify particular types of measures and discuss their benefits and their downsides and the complexity of calculating them, getting the information, and also even applying them. So if you take a simple efficiency ratio, it's outputs divided by inputs. That seems very, very simple. The problem is a company may produce many outputs. It may produce different amounts of each. It may have a very complex input system. It may have different types of machines, different types of technology, different types of personnel, different stores requirements, different distribution channels. That simple relationship we've got on the screen right now is overplaying the simplicity by a long way. Production relationships are complex, and whilst this gives us a feeling for what we mean by efficiency, output divided by input, it's a good conceptual relationship. Output divided by input is efficiency. But when we start to apply it, it gets very complicated. So input measurement is what we're trying to deal with in this session. We're trying to look at the inputs and trying to see how we can get some sort of measure of these inputs. For a start, we have financial operating resources. The resources that are used in inputs are not free, generally speaking. They must be paid for. And therefore budgets must be set up and established. There must be budgetary discipline and training in management of the budget. There are many ancillary costs associated with setting up the financial arrangements. Machines have to be investigated and researched before they're purchased. The design of the business has to be carefully worked out and calculated for optimum efficiency. And all of this feeds back into the financial resources available, that financial package that's available for the business to get started, to get up and running, and then to manage its business in a prudent manner. So what are not just the operating costs of the business, the raw materials and so on, the payment of labour. These are the operating costs. What are the capital costs of the business? How much do the machines cost? And when effort has been expended on researching the right machines, that's a part really of the operating cost in this case. When that happens and the machine is acquired, what's the financial implications of running the machine? How much energy does it use? And is it easy to manage and to train people to use? There are many issues that have financial implications associated just with the capital resources of the business. And of course there are other organizational resources, the offices for example, or the transport for the marketing department to get marketing personnel to meet clients. There must be perhaps nice office areas where clients can come and talk to the management about orders and about products and about business in general. There are many organizational resources, and these have implications, financial implications. And it's important when we think about this simple efficiency ratio that we're talking about inputs, but in fact the inputs of the business are all of the points we're talking about. The operating costs, having workers and having raw materials and having energy and paying for electricity and paying for telephones and the communication system, maybe a local area network. All of this are operating costs. Then we've got the the capital cost, the actual buildings, the office furniture, the computer systems, the machinery on the shop floor, the distribution facility, Maybe it operates its own fleet of lorries or its own fleet of vans. And the other organizational resources, as I've just mentioned. So looking at inputs, there are many, and all of these are inputs. And they all need to be measured and brought onto a common basis, perhaps into currency, into pounds in our case, or into dollars, or whatever the currency it is you're using. So it needs to perhaps to be worked out, but then finding out how much input goes into each item. How much of the overheads does a particular item consume? How much per unit does it consume? Now these are extremely complicated questions, really areas for the attention of management accountants who have got a high degree of expertise in making these type of calculations, albeit with various assumptions. But you can't blame them for making the assumptions because it's an extremely complex task to undertake. Now the financial operating resources, well, materials and labour, as I said, these are operating resources. These have to be put into place. Direct materials and direct labour per unit, expressed in monetary and quantity terms. How much material does a particular product need? What's the cost of the material? It may need very little material, but it may be very expensive. It might be gold. Very, very expensive. So there has to be a monetary as well as a quantity measure, because the business needs to know what is the direct materials and the direct labour, people who actually make the product. How much time does it take them and what's their cost? Material and labour costs and or consumption per unit should decline over a specific period of time. Well, it should do, because if the company is becoming more efficient, then it's getting more output for given amounts of inputs. So workers, for example, are becoming more skilled. There are less defects, there are less rejects from the production process, because the workers have better quality and they're more efficient, so they're learning by doing, and therefore costs should start to fall over a time period. The overheads, well, the overheads are charged per unit. It's very difficult to work out what the overheads are. The overheads, for example, could be the premises. How much does it cost to have a factory unit? How much of that factory unit does a particular unit of output pay for? So let's say the overheads were £1,000 a week and the company produced 100 units a week. Does that mean that each unit has to pay £10? The overheads are 1,000 and there's 100 produced, so the overhead per unit would be £10. But that may not be fair. There might be different units produced in different quantities, and some units may take up more space. Some output may take up more space than different output. Some output may require very capital intensive machinery. Other output may just require a small amount of machinery. So working out the overheads per unit is very complex. But the overheads consumed per unit should decline as time goes by. It should be the case. The company should get more efficient, and as it gets more efficient, output increases. The overhead remains the same. So still the factory unit, which now the factory is producing more. So output has increased, inputs have remained the same. So efficiency has gone up. The capital resources, the financial resources, well, capital investment in operating assets. So it's important to look at the percentage utilization of capacity. Are machines standing idle? Is it the case that part of the factory is not being used or not being used efficiently? So it's important to work out the cost of capital investment per unit produced. Look at the cost of capital investment per unit produced. How much is invested? How many units are produced? That could be a performance measure. The percentage capital utilized should increase to or remain at optimal levels. So capacity utilization should increase or remain at optimal levels if it's already there. So why should capital utilized increase? The percentage capital utilized increased. Well, it should be the case as the company becomes more efficient, then the cost of inputs fall because more of the capital is used. It's used intensively. Output is increasing. So as output increases and there's more effective use of the inputs, then efficiency increases. Pounds per unit of capital invested should decline over time as capital resources are used more efficiently. So that particular measurement of efficiency, it should move in that direction. The other organizational resources, well, non-financial resources consumed by the performance area. Non-financial resources could be office space, times taken in meetings, consultations, training programs. Management estimates of the resources of talent and energy and other non-financial resources that have been dedicated to this performance area. So they need to estimate how much talent, workforce talent is dedicated to an area, how much energy has gone into this particular area. Try to work out what the other organizational resources that are sapped up because of the production of this particular product are. Because the product should pay for those. It should be reflected in the price of the product. So other non-financial resources could be, as I said, accounts, the use of the internet, the use of the intranet within the business, the use of specialist personnel in research, development, accountants who have to work on the costings, the marketing people who need to talk about the designs and bring the product to market and so on. So there are other other organizational resources that need to be brought into account. The amount consumed will increase as the project is developed and decrease after it's implemented. So organizational resources tend to be sapped up when projects are proposed and discussed. But once they're implemented, they should fall away because there's less need to have experts constantly involved and less needs for meetings and information and research and market research, and the overall cost tends to fall off after it's been implemented. Once the product is actually being produced and sold, it becomes almost a standard product of the business. Use an efficient recognition system. Well, use measurement to initiate change. Use the measured results as a management tool. So different measurements we've just talked about different measurements. Now, once the different measurements have been calculated or estimated, then the management may use these as a tool. It now knows what's happening in the business. It knows the efficiency with which certain products are being made. It knows what resources are going into the products. It has an efficiency measurement, let's say, of products in terms of the different inputs they may use. So it may intervene to try and increase efficiency in certain areas and monitor it in other areas and make decisions about the overall production of the product and how it's conducted. Ideally, the results should have an automatic intervention point and some associated strategy. The management should have thought about this in advance and think about the efficiency ratios and think if they're low, below a certain figure, then it should trigger intervention. They should automatically be called upon to intervene and fix whatever has gone wrong. And they should have a strategy to do that. They should know how they're going to intervene and fix it, not just go along in the morning and look surprised and then try to figure out what to do. They should have a strategy already in place, something in their minds or something written down that if a particular efficiency measurement is below what was expected, it triggers their intervention and they have a policy and a strategy to deal with that situation. Expected results should be rewarded with congratulations and act as a reinforcement and as a motivator to the person who achieved them. So when efficiency measures are used and are calculated, if the efficiency measures are high and meet the required standards, then the person who's achieved those should be congratulated. That could be the operator on the shop floor who has been careful and has met the targets and has been efficient about his or her work. It could be the line manager, it could be the departmental head, it could be whoever within the organisation. But the point is, when targets are met, motivation is bolstered by simply being acknowledged as someone who's met the targets. It's important to build a culture. A good system requires careful application for the workers and managers to ensure that it functions at key efficiency. So peak efficiency is very difficult to achieve, and peak efficiency is very difficult to maintain. But workers and managers should try continuously to achieve that. They should try to achieve maximum efficiency. They should try to run the business in a way that is efficient, overall efficiency. And there should be agreement amongst them about the strategies to follow and how to bring this about. Efficiency improvements require effort and appropriate motivation. It's important that the personnel within the business are motivated to achieve good efficiency or peak efficiency. It's important that they are motivated by pride in their work, by commitment, by enthusiasm, by reward. It could be financial reward, or it could be that they are simply acknowledged as making a good contribution. Improvement happens when people employ enthusiasm, dedication, commitment, leadership, and morale in their daily routines. And businesses are quintessentially people-based. Businesses require people to activate the business, to make the products or initiate the change. Or generally, businesses are based on people, and it's important that the people have commitment and have enthusiasm, and there is a good morale within the business and a good spirit that enables the business to function efficiently. So a good system requires a holistic approach, including workers and managers at all levels, good incentive schemes, and long-term and detailed commitment to its success. And if these are all in place, then the performance measures will improve, and the performance measures will settle at figures that are good and acceptable to management, and will enable the management to perhaps move their focus to other projects to bring about even higher rates of growth within the business. They're able to focus on diversification and alternative strategies and research and development and so on, because the core business is running well, because the performance measurements taken at various levels are all acceptable. The performance measurements are good management tools. They tell the management when they should intervene, they identify the area that needs attention, and the management should have a strategy to intervene and deal with that issue and deal with it efficiently. It's essential that the measurement system is acted upon. There's no point in having it if it's there as some sort of cosmetic management tool. It is an important part of the system. It's important to measure the efficiency of the system, even though it's very complex. As I said it right at the start, the little formula we had at the start, outputs divided by inputs, it hides a lot of complications in trying to measure the inputs and trying to measure the outputs. But if we work it in currency, and we say outputs is measured in pounds or in dollars, and inputs, we'll try and get them into pounds and dollars as well. So we have a way of dividing out. We have a way of working out the efficiency. But working out the precise amount of overheads that a particular output uses is difficult. Working out the amount of capital that a particular process uses is difficult, because it needs to work out the timing of the that it's on the particular machines, the number of machines involved, and even then it can depend on the efficiency of the worker, of the person working with. So instead of working the output per machine, it should be output per production unit, and the production unit is the machine plus the worker. So there are all sorts of complications, but it shouldn't put management off trying. It's important that the performance measures are attempted, and there should be recognition that they may be defective, but they might be the best thing that's available, the only thing that's available, and therefore they should be considered. So performance measurement is an important topic. It's an important management tool, albeit with lots of problems associated. And that concludes this talk. So we're going to leave it at that and say thank you very much for watching.